It's one thing to come to Germany to study or work, but it's a whole different ball game to actually build a company. Most people never even try. The language barrier, the laws, the cultural shock. But today, I am talking to somebody who actually built something big. Meet Raja, an Indian founder who went from the Netherlands to Germany and built Audit One, a startup that's literally protecting Web3 from billion-dollar hacks. In this episode, you will hear how he raised funding in Europe, what struggles he had to come from India and start something in Germany, and what it's really like to start up here as an immigrant in Germany. Along with that, he will share his insider roadmap if you want to break into Germany's fast growing tech industry or Web3 security. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. I think what makes you unique also is like not only that you're from India, but so there are two different levels to it. You came from India, but
Mhm.
also you have a successful business. So that is something which is very unique. I have so many DMs every single week where people ask me how they can start their own company and all those things. So I think you have a lot to offer. You have a lot to give to the community. Um, why should one choose Germany to start their own business over here?
That's a good question. Like, let's say first things first. If you talk about German ecosystem, the deep tech is given such a high priority these days because the way German companies are getting digitally transformed, they need a proper transition. So if there are in-house transitions happening, but still there is a gap in terms of skill,
Mm-hmm.
and if you feel like employees can fill it, that's not happening, but there is a need of subsidiary startups or something that one should cater to the enterprises so that the things would be much faster. Because at enterprise, if you see, like, there's a lot of bureaucracy. If you want to get one transformation, then you will literally spend like 1 year sort of time. But
Mm-hmm.
with this deep tech startups emerging, I think you can make it much faster. That's one angle. And also there are certain businesses which really need to be there with the digital transformation happening, especially the cybersecurity angle. Because if you see at German ecosystem these days, since 2 3 years, the cloud transformation is like so huge in the IT industry. So at the same time, when you are transitioning every data to cloud, so at the same time the amount of risks and security things also come up a lot. So you need a proper solution provider who can address this transition in a secured way. So
Got it.
that's where the cybersecurity was one among them. And then I was also much into blockchain during my journey in India with a STEM education startup.
Yeah.
So the area felt so interesting, like where blockchain meets security, kind of.
Yeah.
And then found a good potential there.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing my Solana shirt.
Okay.
So I think that adds a third layer, like not only from India, but having your own business, but also having doing something in a emerging industry like blockchain. So Audit One, for those who do not understand what Audit One does, how would you summarize it, like in one or two sentences?
Yeah. So about Audit One, it's I can say like Europe's one of the largest auditor bank, where we try to vet the auditors in the fields of smart contract auditing. So for viewers to understand, on blockchain, code functions as a law, and then in order to secure this, I mean, the code that you write on blockchain is managed by smart contracts. So these smart contracts, once they are published on blockchain, you can't mutate it. So
Hmm.
before you deploy something, you definitely need to get an audit done. Or let's say in simple terms, in Web2, you might have heard of this word called as pen testing. So similar to that, it needs to be critically audited. So the auditors is something which we have it on our platform. And second angle, what we do is like um, the startups, or let's say SMEs, if they want to cater the enterprise clients, they do need some sort of vendor assessment need to be cleared from the enterprise to startups and SMEs. So in order to clear this vendor assessment, sometimes these startups and SMEs need ISO certifications, which literally shows that the security posture of this SMEs or startup is really strong.
Hmm.
So these days we are also serving this market. and we are closely working with certification bodies to optimize or make their process so efficiently with the help of AI.
Yeah.
So even with the audit side, we were also focusing more on providing everybody auditors an opportunity to work without them sitting and doing marketing kind of stuff, or let's say searching for clients. And we do that case for auditors and for certification bodies. So the processes seems to be much traditional, and we are trying to transform it to AI level.
Yeah, I was in Cannes for ECC, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw how many auditors were there. Uh, like it's a very big industry. I saw a video the other day which said that either Web3 or AI are the only two industries which are actively hiring software developers. And I think there's a big shift happening because of the whole rise of AI and vibe coding, that somebody who is watching this video right now should consider making a career in software. But before they do so, they should read the Bitcoin white paper, and also like the GPT-2 paper, and then see where they are more inclined to go, which paper is easy for them to read, or which paper is more interesting for them to read, and based on that, then they should decide which way to branch out, either in Web3 or in the whole AI ecosystem. But before we dive into more technical details, how is it to come to a whole new place, come to Germany and start something of your own? I mean, I understand it's required, and it's a very big pain point of the economy. But being an Indian, being not from here, what's the whole mindset behind it? How do you navigate that?
The thing is, like, during my bachelor's itself, I was in a mood that okay, MNC is not my game, because I have seen my sister and also a couple of relatives who were working in MNCs, and I felt like their stream was so narrow that they were focusing only one angle, and the exposure which they have to certain things which the business guys or entrepreneurs has was so different. So I
Mhm.
thought like, okay, MNC is not my game. So I was always in a mood like, okay, I need to start something on my own and then create that change. So that's where this spark has begun, and then was trying to sort out some problems in India. And first thing which I came across was, let's say, conventional education system, where rote learning was very much seen in people, and then let's say people are not learning practically or getting to that industry knowledge of how to do things. So that's where the first company emerged, and after that I was doing that education as an impact stuff, and less on monetization side. But let's say I also wanted to get into a commercial zone of building a bigger startup, so was exploring German startups directly, so with that mood. So the only thing which made me to move towards entrepreneurship zone is like after getting to see how MNC narrows your brain down to only one stream. That was something that made me to go for do something different and get to explore much more things. And in my, let's say, 9 years of this startup journey or anything, I think the knowledge that I was able to gain it, I think if I had joined an MNC, I could have stuck to one thing. Like I could have been master of one, but let's say being in startup made me like jack of all trades. But
Mhm.
let's say that's what I enjoy doing. Like let's say every day new challenge is something which keeps me moving out, and then every day exploring a new vertical or a new technology that comes in the market. I want to implement it as soon as possible.
Mhm.
And I've also worked in MNC as a working student. But the thing is, like, the amount of exposure I got there in terms of stucking to one field, and then in order to get one thing done, I literally spent like 6 months. But let's say at Audit One, if you see, like every 2 months you will have a new feature released. So that's
Yeah.
what I enjoy. And then
Yeah.
the freedom to make things, and you immediately get the tangible result of people enjoying what you have built. So that makes
Yeah.
me stick to it. Yeah.
A lot of autonomy. I used to also work in a bank, and I know how difficult the compliance can be. You need to get approval from everybody. But that's very cool. Like, I see where your motivation comes from, but how is it different to start a company in India versus starting it here in, Germany? What's the biggest difference and the biggest challenge that you had to face?
Yeah. So coming to India, I think the things are very fast and very dynamic. Like let's say if I want to get a company registered, It's, I can get it done in 14 days and kickstart my operations. But here, I felt like bureaucracy is a overhead kind of thing that literally takes your time. But let's say there are things that kind of really test your patience here. But let's say once you can crack that ecosystem, you are like done kind of. You are like free to build, or let's say free to get into market kind of stuff. And
Mm.
one more interesting thing between India and Germany is that in terms of funding, even what I felt is like in India, like you can sometimes fake it till you make it kind of attitude works. But let's
Yeah.
say here, like people are so to the point, and then they literally want to check not only your product but also what is your compliance, and then what is your founder strengths and etc. I mean, they deep dive a bit more, a plus point on compliance and regulatory angle before they want to fund. It
Mm.
might be kind of a hindering in the beginning, but let's say what I can say is like if you are able to crack this system of bureaucracy in Germany, I can say like you can start startup in anywhere in the world because
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. If you can drive in India, you can drive anywhere in the world. And if you can crack the startup thing in Germany, you can do it anywhere in the world. Yeah, makes
that's
sense.
true. Yeah.
But from my research, your company Audit One was able to raise 800,000 euros, right? Like they were able to get that funding. Is it right?
Currently it's around 1 million, I can say.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So in that we have raised around let's say 200K from the angels, and then let's say 700K from Hartegf. It is one of the Germany's top Deeptech VCs. And then we also have some government backed funding for the project. Yeah.
Okay, so it's almost 1 million euros. And
Yes, correct.
where do you even start? How did you start it? And like how did you navigate this whole space?
Yeah, for me, it was like when maybe I should tell my company journey. Like, let's say it was blockchain founders group where the journey started at. My co-founder was a German, and he was already working on idea on risk analytics. And then I joined him as a CTO, where we together started to incubate there. And then let's say we try to enter into the market. Then we were looking for funding, and during this funding, I think warm leads worked more than the cold leads. Even when we try to reach out to, let's say, our connections on Twitter or who are active in the space, that things didn't work out. But let's say when there was a warm lead introducing us to a particular party, then that's where the conversion started. And pre-seed was a bit tricky in the beginning, took some time to raise that round. But let's say once you had that pre-seed and we were able to prove or double the revenues than what we made in the pre-seed, then getting into seed was a bit easier. So that's what I say. Like the initial round raising is a bit difficult for any founder, I can say. But once
Mm.
you get to that zone, and if you can show proper metrics by entering the next round, it would become easy. And when we also went into second round, the problem is like it's not a problem, but let's say the amount of due diligence increased. So it took more time, but still, let's say we had money in the bank when it was needed. But
Mm.
if somebody is planning to rise in Germany, what I recommend them is like if you want to have money in the bank today, plan it a year back to
Mm.
raise your funding, is what I say. So
So
always plan at least 9 months to 12 months earlier if you want to have a round done.
yeah, Germany takes a lot of time to release funds and all those things.
Correctly.
So if I understand correctly, you had a co-founder who was German,
Yes.
and it was with his help or with his connections that you were able to navigate your way through.
Correct.
The reason I ask it is because a lot of people are curious about how they can start up, here. And I, if you were to give them like a toolkit that you need to have, I mean, of course, you need to have a good plan and a good idea, which is like the biggest prerequisite. But apart from that, what websites to go to, or what like portals to go to, or who to approach, what will you like tell them? Or if you could go back and tell your younger self, like how could you have made it a faster way to raise the money that you did?
Correct. That's a good question. For me, the first thing is like language has been a biggest barrier I can say, because when I wanted to get into startup ecosystem, this was the first thing I understood from studying everywhere, or let's say my research. What I can say is like startup schools are a good place to start with in order to meet your co-founders, or let's say build your network that is needed to kickstart your journey into startups. So I started my journey in one of the founders school. So there was a startup school where people come and talk about I mean it's all about giving mentorship, and then they also tell you options, like what funding options are available, whom to reach out, how to approach your solutions kind of. So they teach you from fundraising to how to get into German markets kind of. So that's a place I can say like any founder can start with. So there are like many incubators or many startup schools one can get started with, and then find your right co-founder, and then validate the idea there itself. And here in Germany, what I also felt is like it's whenever somebody also want to invest in you, they look into idea a bit, but let's say along with idea, make sure that you at least have one of the implementation pre-sold. For example, let's say you are building a SaaS product. Uh, Show the MVP or something to the ideal customer, get at least a pre-sale contract. I think that's where the conversion would be much more easier from investors. That
Hmm.
that game is something which has really worked out for us, because before we wanted to raise funding, we already have someone who wanted to get an audit with us, and also we had a solid idea of how to scale it kind of.
Mm.
So after startup school, find your right co-founder. Then second step, try to pre-sell the idea or the product that you want to literally sell into the market, and then go for fundraising. Then
Okay.
you can easily get kickstarted from there. And bureaucracy is something always make sure that you find like these days you can easily find like people who can speak both English and German, notary
Mhm.
wise or a lawyer wise.
Yeah.
So you can last step is that one. Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to share the school that you went to?
Sure, I can really share. Like, firstly, I started my journey with Founders Foundation. It's
Okay.
a startup school based in Bielefeld.
Hmm.
That's where I started my journey, and I was also trying to start one of the startup with a German guy, but things didn't work out because the language of startup needs to be completely in German, and I couldn't cope up with it.
Hmm.
And the second one was the Audit One, where I kickstarted my journey with other co-founder. Yeah.
Okay. And
And
yeah.
second one was Blockchain Founders Group. I'm not sure if it is still active, but the name of it has been updated to Blockchain Founders Capital.
Hmm.
I think they also incubate some ideas and provide mentorship as well as give funding in the initial stages. But I would also like to mention my first investor who is based in Berlin. They also run a lot of. They have a platform called as Foundens, where they try to match the co-founders and try to support conduct venture-a-thons, where you can validate your idea, and they do provide funding if your idea works well. So
Okay.
these are good sources if somebody wants to kickstart it with, and they do support much of deep tech startups, AI and blockchain related first. Yeah.
So a lot of different venues to, validate your idea and start it.
Yes.
And when you applied to the Founders Foundation, were you already in Germany or were you in India back then?
I was in Germany, and that has been almost my first couple of months.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I went to one of the hackathons of them, and then from there, I understood that they also do startup programs. But it took like 6 months for me to get into the program which they were doing. They do like
Okay.
every half yearly kind of.
So for the bureaucratic side of things, if somebody is watching this from India, what kind of visa were you on when you applied to the Founders Foundation?
I was on my student visa actually. I came to complete my masters here. Actually, I had an Erasmus program kind of stuff.
Okay.
1 year was in India and other year was in Germany. So
Mm.
during that year, I had my student visa when I started my journey with startup school.
Yeah.
And post that, even like I was holding my 18 months post study visa and was exploring various opportunities in
So you
startup.
had your student visa, then you had your job seekers visa, and then you met your founders.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because when I was trying to start, so I also had my own company. I had my UGE. You have a, you know, GmbH. The difference for those of you who don't know is UGE is like a mini GmbH. The cash that an UGE has can be as less as one euro, but a GmbH has like at least 25,000,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm aware of it actually. So the thing is like even I don't hold my shares in the GmbH directly. I also hold a UG on my personal level,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then as a holding company, I hold it in GmbH. Yeah.
Got it, got it. But from what I know is that if you're a non-German,
Mhm.
you cannot start a company here. If you're not on a PR or like I have a German passport. So when I was also trying to start my own company, I was recommended to have a German co-founder because with them you can start your own company. Was that the case with you as well, or?
Yeah, for me it was the same case because I wanted to get into startup ecosystem, but unaware of these bureaucratic things. But I understood that if I want to get started with my student visa stuff, I should definitely have my German co-founder. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a case even with me.
Yeah. Do you think with the stuff which is happening in the US, the H-1B visa and whatever, Europe is or Germany is slowly becoming like the next go-to place for these tech startups to, come and thrive?
Uh, I think like definitely there is a lot of scope if you are into deep tech side and also cybersecurity or the cloud side. There is much scope coming up because IT skill gap is still existing here, I'm sure. But the
Mhm.
only thing is like current market situations might be very different because there are a lot of layoffs happening because of projects not being there in the companies. But the ecosystem will definitely go up for sure in a couple of years when
Yeah,
things get more stable. And Germany would be a good place for deep tech startups, especially, I can say. But if you are planning right now, I could say, like, okay, hold on for a bit of time, and then it will be a huge explosion of opportunities here.
that's what I think as well. Like my personal theory is that in the next 2 3 years, when things settle in the US, things will boom again over here. Because I think what we are facing right now is a lot of hangover from the American uncertainty. And I think Europe is slowly trying to become independent of the US. And I think a lot of companies are also looking at other options to like start growing in, and Europe is becoming like a big place to go to. The only thing which I'm not sure about is the amount of regulation. I'm not against regulation, but I do think that slows things down. Has it been the case for you as well that having a company in Germany, regulations has been like a, slowed things down for you?
I mean, definitely, like when you are planning something in Europe, you should care regulation as the first thing I can say, because even for us, there were certain things where we need to get permissions from regulatory bodies to kickstart with certain things. So they slow down things. But what I felt is like with the right amount of documentation done, you can get things faster. But at the same time, with the bureaucracy, you also have people who can do things or outsource this regulatory stuff. But let's say it comes at a cost, obviously.
Mhm. Of
So
course.
yeah, but in terms of AI, I think we haven't faced any regulatory sort of issues till date because it purely depends on the application that you are building around. Because
Mhm.
our application is not purely focused on replacing someone, or let's say if something hurts human, here the regulation comes into picture at much more stricter way. But if
Mhm.
you are building something that could make the humans efficient, I think regulation literally supports you even.
Got it, got it. So to summarize, Audit One is basically leveraging AI to not only do smart contract audits, which means like making sure there are no bugs in the smart contract, which is like a whole Web3 thing, but also helping with cybersecurity, which means that making sure that a product or a software is not hacked or has no vulnerabilities in it. And for that, you're leveraging your own AI. Could you talk about that a bit, or is that like a business recipe
No,
behind
no, no. I
AI
mean,
or?
the tool is quite open right now for Web3 developers. We built a tool which can help the smart contract auditors to, let's say, identify the bugs or identify the vulnerabilities that
Yeah.
are very well known in the space. So the how this dynamics works is that let's say whenever we have an audit, usually auditors go through every code line manually, and they find out, like, let's say, the known issues and unknown issues with respect to business logic or bugs, and then they try to report it. So what we try to build there is, like, in order to make the auditors work more efficient, let our tool find the known issues so that you can focus more on the other exploit cases or exploit scenarios, is something we try to build it. And the tool is live now. Any smart contract auditor can use it, but there are still some false positives, and day by day it's kind of getting improved.
Okay, but can you also, you know, speak a bit about what kind of what kind of an LLM are you using in the AI, or is that something you don't want to share? Because that's a, you know, big deal as well.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of LLMs, I mean, it's quite open thing. Like, let's say, we try to run it over multiple ones, and whatever
Mm.
best gave us, we are replicating it in the live version right now. But we
Got it.
try to work around pretty much. But let's say it's not about the LLM that we are using. LLM is just used as a conversational layer in the tool. But let's
Mm.
say the actual dynamics which is present in the backend is like, you use a lot of graph neural networks to understand the code structure, code explainability, and then trying to identify using, let's say, the comparing the patterns and etc. It's much more of a algorithmic stuff going in the backend. And with LLMs, a kind of fine tuning is happening to establish that conversational layer. So
Mm.
it's not purely LLM is trying to handle this tool, but let's say LLM is just a conversational layer.
Got it. Got it. Being a founder, I think you have an eagle eye point of view with what's happening in the economy, what kind of skills are needed. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of my audience is also young, ambitious people who are like maybe in their 12th standard or maybe even like younger than that. What skills would you recommend them to get at this age, which will help them, if not have their own company, but get good jobs and impactful roles in other companies?
That's a good question. Like, first things first, maybe this is something which I would like to speak about your audience and any audience which I come across. The thing is, like, in today's market, everybody is saying like vibe coding is something gonna help you a lot. Just don't learn coding, learn English language and etc. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, like, I'm sure, like, down the line, 10 years even, if you just learn uh, English, and let's say if you go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, give me this code, give me that code, it's not going to work like that, because um, whenever you want to code is just 20% of what exactly you do in the market, in your company. The
Mm.
rest of the 80% is mostly problem solving. It's the first skill which I definitely recommend to everybody. Even when you are learning programming language, don't care about like which programming language you are learning, it doesn't matter. Ultimately what you should learn is like, how to solve a particular problem. Whenever you have a use case, how to establish that, approach that right way of designing the system is more important than you writing a code for something. Because even a college student in his first year learns C, Python, etc., and can write the code.
Mm.
But if you want to excel in industry, coding is not just a skill that's going to help you, but let's say work on your problem solving skills of
Mm.
whenever you have a use case, how to approach that.
Mm.
And always um, prepare for designing systems, not just designing a program that could solve your problem. Because I know, like, with the vibe coding, there are a lot of people coming up with apps, automations, etc. But think before, does it really solve the real world problem? Or else, let's say you're just building it for fun, or building your resume or something that is not going to help you. Like, so always make sure that you build that problem solving skill before you go to AI to get your coding stuff done. So this is the most important skill I can say. And in terms of technologies, if somebody wants to explore, I think AI is definitely going to help you in future. So AI is something that you can learn, but learn it in such a way that conceptually learn how things work so that you can implement anything. And second thing, with the growth of any technology, security would be a concern always. So cybersecurity is going to be a booming future, is something which I can say. And let's say the third segment, obviously the combination of AI intersecting with blockchain is going huge these days, where agent to agent economy is growing. So this might be technical, but let's say um, intersection of technologies is something which people would like to the tech world is going to see a lot. And then there is an interesting angle if any new startup guys want to build their startups in, how to automate this traditional process effectively with AI. And then there make sure that you try to get into the domain a bit more depth. And then if you are able to automate their process with AI, that's where the real value of AI is created. So this
So,
could be an interesting area.
basically, problem solving, intersection of AI and blockchain, and automation, right?
Yeah.
What about DevOps and FinOps or machine learning ops? That's the new term that they have. I have been doing some research about it that these are like maintenance things which every industry would need. What is your take on that?
Yeah, so that's where the traditional process of what developers do, they do it a bit manual these days. So if you are able to automate that processes, and that too with a security angle included in it, I think that's going to be a crazy area. Like one can easily build a billion-dollar company.
When you hire somebody for Audit One, so you said problem solving, which I think is a very abstract thing because problem solving can take so many different shapes and forms, like given the context. But when you hire somebody for your, futuristic company, what do you look for in them?
That's a good question. Like recently, we also had one of the developer roles open, full stack developer. So we got a lot of applications. We see like they are coding good, but also like most of the codes also they forked it and then try to build with AI. For me, actually the way you code doesn't matter for me. And let's say in technical perspective, how I would like to hire someone in a development team is like, firstly, I try to understand from their GitHub, not just the code, did they solve any real world problem and how they use technology there. And even in terms of that, I try to understand how they approach the problem. And then for that problem, how they choose that this is the right technology that helped them to solve this problem. Um, recently, like if you take one example, we were building a tool for certification bodies, and there was a situation in our company is like, okay, whether we should purely depend on LLM or we should go with an algorithm. So if I'm interviewing a person, I would put up that question in front of them and ask him, like, let's say, do you choose algorithm for this or else simply choose an LLM for this? What is your reasoning behind it? What factors do you consider? So is it cost that you consider? Is the code optimization do you consider? Or let's say how quick the user, I mean, how the user is satisfied do you consider? So it's more on, let's say, non-technical aspects comes first in terms of problem solving, and then I deep dive into technical aspects of, okay, now which library do you choose, why this particular approach of building algorithm in this style. So that is something which I try to understand. And I think coding is something which I would take it at last, because today if you ask a question in a proper way and you know the steps behind solving the problem, you can get the code easily and get things done. So that's where I focus more on.
Got it, got it. Let's talk a bit about your work-life balance. This is something that people really talk about in Germany, that Europe is more known for the work-life balance as compared to the US. Is it also true when you have your own company?
That's absolutely not true. I mean, in anywhere in the world, I think like if you have your own company, it's like you are building fortune for yourself, and then you have a lot of responsibility to take care of every person being part of the journey. So I think there will be some sort of extra hours need to be put in, I'm sure. And I think that is also something, if you have that passion for your startup, I think you obviously put in. And you also need to have like understanding partners uh, at family who can literally understand, like let's say it's something we are building a bigger um, story. So if that is clear, I think like that's fine. Like work life balance for me is like, let's say if you are running your, if you want to have your own company in initial years, you will miss out on that zone. But let's say once you get things organized and processes set up, you will definitely have time for your family and work at the same time. And I think initial years there will be struggle as usual for any founder, but once things are settled and you have understanding people at family, like things go on smooth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely I'm with you on that. When I had my own business as well, there were no weekends, there were no evenings. It was just full on grind and doing a lot of unglamorous work.
True.
Um, the one story I always share is when I was an employee, I used to always ask my employers about my hike or my, promotion and stuff and argue for an increase of 1,000 euros in my salary, for example. When I became an employer, I understood why employers are not really keen on giving a hike because in Germany, if you are paying somebody 1,000 euros more, it means you have to also, it actually costs you around 2,000 euros because you have to pay for their health insurance, you have to pay for their XYZ things as well. How is that for you? Was that a shock when you started doing this, or how is it for you?
I mean, let's say contributions wise, it's a kind of shock for me in the beginning. But later, what I understood is like the amount of facilities that government is trying to provide in terms of infrastructure, or else, let's say, free schooling for students. Um, I think these all comes at a cost, and government needs to somehow get out of it. So, and I think that's a only thing the government can do right now. Let's say if you are making more money, like you also need to contribute, because at the end of the day, or let's say end of your retirement, like you are going to get back a good life in Germany. So that's fine. But let's say coming from India, and if you try to compare the taxation and etc., I think the amount of taxes Germany has and the amount of infrastructure facilities you get, I think they do kind of match. Yeah.
Because you have been a founder in India and also here,
Mhm.
do you genuinely think that it helps an employee to be more productive, given that in Germany they're much more secure? I'm sure that in India, the entire mentality is that, and I think it's a bit unfortunate. Not every company has it, but employees they work from 9 to 9, 6 days a week, and I think it's the reason that they're able to or they're pushed to work so hard is because they're insecure about their job. They can be fired at any time. They don't have any benefits that they have in Germany. But here, the employees have a hard stop at 6:30, maximum 7. Nobody will call them on the weekends. So do you think this kind of an environment actually help an employee to be more productive?
Maybe this is not right question you asked me, because being in startups, like we have let's say our founding team is German, but let's say if you talk about our other product teams, we have it quite distributed, and our auditors are also like well distributed globally. So I think if you ask in a general perspective, I think it helps to an extent. Definitely, being more secure that you don't lose your job, and also being, let's say, you have a proper work-life balance can increase productivity. Definitely, because here the game doesn't work on how you impress externally, but it only works on how much effort you put it in the amount of time you spend or fixed hours and etc. I think that definitely creates a different mindset in employees, that okay, my company has provided me like this sort of facility in terms of having a proper work life balance, then I should also contribute in the same way. I think that adds a lot of value there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And what's the one thing that you got from your Indian experiences being a founder in India that you now implement over here and it's actually working quite well?
uh, yeah, I mean, this is something, the practical implementation of things, or more possible to do faster. That's something which I'm also doing at startup right now in Germany too. Because let's say I also had like German MNC experience, I told you, right, as a working student. There I felt like if you want to get implemented something, you literally need to do 5 months of research and 1 month of implementation kind of stuff. But let's say at startup, the game is so different. You need to be quick at getting your research done with the user, and then get to show him the feature just in 15-20 days, and get a feedback loop running always. So I think that's something which worked out well both in India and Germany here. And here I felt like the clients whom we work with, even it's not like uh, we need kind of a proper professional working thing to be established so quick. They don't demand for it. But let's say at the end of the day, when you provide it, it should be professional, obviously. But let's say we can have any number of iterations, and we are ready to help you kind of system is there here even, so you can build things with some mistakes, but based on the feedback, if you're able to improve and create that professional one, I think like that is something which is working well. Everybody, like if somebody comes from academic backgrounds and MNC backgrounds, they obviously think that okay, Germans need like perfect solution and you need to do a lot of research before you build something. But there are also a lot of people who try to iterate along with you, and if you are able to build things faster, I think you can apply that practical way of implementing and get that feedback loop running with Germans even, not an issue right now.
Yeah, the good old Indian improvisation and jugaad as we.
Jugaad, exactly.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
very true because I think that's also what my friends and my fiance tells me. She's French and she always says that I just do things. Like even with this entire podcast, the idea was let's just start, let's just do something, and we will
Yeah,
see how it goes. And I think that's something that is missing over here because people are always they're always coming from the perspective of let's be thorough,
yeah,
and if it takes so much time, let's just be thorough. And I think with the whole, especially if you're working in an industry like Web3, which is constantly changing, your mentality or maybe a trait which will allow you to be a good founder is to just jump into it and see, like figure things out.
yeah, that's
Which also might mean you have more technical debt because if you're not able to be as thorough as you would want to be because you want to start, it means you might have some blind spots. Has it happened with you that you just started doing something or didn't have an extensive research as you would want to have and that like it like backfired or something like that?
I mean, it happens, but let's say if we release like 10 features, always like two features or something which users don't like it at the end of the day, but that's fine. Like 8 out of 10 is liked by them and we are good to go. But let's say if we want to make sure that 10 out of 10 needs to be used, and 10 of the 10 needs to be like well thorough, I think we couldn't have implemented the tool to the public till now. So that couldn't have been happened. Like, I mean, but let's say the it also depends on the audience whom you are delivering your solution to. Because let's say if you are trying to deliver a solution to government sort of bodies, I think you definitely need to be thorough, and that's needed. But let's say in this fast evolving ecosystem, like literally like even I think not only Germany, like any country you go to, this is something they expect. Like let's say if they could see tangible results quicker, and if one or two issues might happen, if you are able to resolve them in like let's say few days, that's fine. Like it happens everywhere. And if you are not making that step and wait till you gain mastery over it, you want to make it thorough, like things literally don't work in this startup ecosystem, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, just to like change the question a bit, if you were to go back to India to start
Mhm.
your own something new, what's the one German thing you would take back with you?
Organizing things. So let's say documentation and organizing things is something which is um, literally good over here, very good over here. Because let's say recently I have been, I mean, our company has been certified in ISO, and then the amount of processes we aligned with the standard operating processes, or let's say the way German co-founder does things in attention to detail mode for the processes to work, and let's say the 4I principle techniques. So this is something I would like to take from Germany. It's Jugado is good to an extent, but let's say if that comes with an organizing things, uh, I think you're gonna make it like big in India even. Yeah. And in India, like I think data privacy is something which is taken for granted, I'm sure. And also the security of applications today is like not that so extensive. I think these two things also should be really given importance. And I think one day, like let's say even Indian government is trying to push DPDPA sort of thing similar to GDPR and etc. I think those sort of laws will really help the experience from Germany. And then in India, like we can literally be complied with anything even. Yeah,
Yeah, so Indian jugaad with German organization is like a recipe for a good, startup idea.
correct.
Um, I know that in India, data privacy does not exist. Like my family does not care. I think the younger generation might be more, into it, but the older generation, they don't seem to care much. They will give their WhatsApp numbers to everyone, Paytm or like UPI, which is such a big, success story. But the amount of data you're giving away is like insane. It's also ironical because India is one of the biggest countries which produces Web3 developers. So it's coming from a place where data is not that highly regarded, but
True,
you're building a technology which like which keeps data privacy at its core.
true.
How do you see it changing with the rise of new generation coming in? Do you think India will have like a data privacy revolution?
Definitely, I think even government is trying to push a lot into this segment. Recently, there were a lot of discussions happening around digital privacy protection side. So DPDPA is, I think, new act which India is trying to enforce in coming days. Um, and especially with Gen Zs getting into, let's say, the more of social media usage and etc. And being no control over data, I think even the Gen Z is getting trying to understand what is the importance of their privacy and data, etc. When compared to our previous generations, where we literally didn't care about data in terms of giving out phone numbers or let's say giving out our identity cards wherever we wanted to. Yeah, people are literally caring about it. I think even government is trying to push towards privacy of not being given to other countries because we India in India like we have most of the social media apps based from US and China, and the data is not just spreading over India and being used, but let's say it has been sometimes been misused by algorithms powered by other countries too. I think the government has realized that, and also at the same time, with that push, even the younger generations are realizing much more these days.
Yeah, definitely. Um, as a founder, how does your typical day, look like? I know it's a very cliched question, but I'm really curious as how do you organize a, typical work day?
Yeah, I mean, if in India it could have been a different case, but let's say in Germany, like as you need to do your own things, wake up early around 7 to 8 and then get at least your breakfast done because I mean once you start your day at 9 like there is no looking back. You obviously get into your work, and here it's not like work for 9 to 5 or something you have it in startups anywhere. I think like you have flexible hours we call it, but let's say that flexibility goes from morning 9 to even night 12 or 2 o'clock even. So most of my time during days go in meetings with my teams, and also much more on let's say testing what we built. But let's say the night is the time when the things work majorly for me. Like in my case, being in that CTO zone, actually startup CTO is literally not just a strategy guy, but also need to get your hands dirty by coding stuff. So night is a time where I spend code like a night owl and then get things done sort of. So a typical working guy's day, but as a founder, you spend most of the day to get things done with your team, and then you have a focus mode separately set for yourself to get what you really want to do as an individual.
You said something very important, which I think sort of got hidden back from with behind everything else is you have to do your own things here. Which I from what I understand is that your laundry, your food, you're cleaning the house. These things take time, so much time, and like sometimes when I call my parents back home, I'm either always filling the dishwasher or like doing something with the dishes or cleaning the house, and then my mom always says, "Why can't you just sit down and talk to us?" I'm like, I have so much to do. I do not have the luxury right now to just sit down and talk. I mean, I do have it like once a week, but that is so real because I think in India we take it for granted the amount of help we have over here there, like somebody will take care of the food, somebody will make your bed, somebody will do XYZ. But here we don't have that. And I think if you're a founder, and I think you work from home or do you have like a office?
I do work from home actually.
Yeah, it just makes it very difficult for you to manage everything. But on the contrary, I've come to also appreciate it a bit because, being on your laptop all day, either you're coding or thinking or brainstorming, when you are folding your laundry, you're just doing that. You're just like disconnected from the world, and your brain has like a shutdown mode. So it's not that bad as well. Once you get yeah.
Yeah. So I think like even if I go back to India, like if somebody asks like what are your hobbies in Germany, like I can say like washing dishes and then cooking is one of the good hobby like we got of it. And also they give like good amount of distraction from your complete focus mode from work. Uh, yeah, I think like doing things for yourself also creates that refreshment to your brain. Somebody finds it in walking, somebody finds it in playing cricket or badminton in India, but here you find that sort of distraction by doing your own things. And we are also literally saving money what we pay to maids here.
I mean, what you pay to help over here is a lot more than what you would pay them in India. So yeah,
Correctly. Yeah.
that's that's another thing. Um, I just want to like re-emphasize the fact, and just to take your approval as well, is if somebody wants to come to Germany with the intention of starting their own company, they should come as a student, so either for bachelor's or master's. Try to go in groups like foundation, the founders foundation, and try to meet people who have same idea, like-minded ideas. Hopefully find a native co-founder, and from there things get easy to start their own company or startup or whatever the idea is. Do you have any specific recommendation to what bachelor's or master's that they should do?
I mean, this thing I can't really comment on because here my bachelor's or master's nothing mattered for me. First case is that I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering and I did my master's in big data. So there was like let's say two extreme verticals where from hardware to complete software I switched on. But I think the only thing which people care about you here is like not the which background you come from. It's all about the skill and then your uh, gut to execute ideas better here. And also, I have seen in many cases because we are a batch of 100 people who came in three batches to Germany to do our masters in our second year. And I see that the backgrounds which they came from and the jobs that they are doing here um, didn't literally consider what skill they had in India or what skill they had in bachelor's, but purely based on what you prove yourself during your interviews or what you prove during your executions that mattered, but nothing else mattered here.
So essentially, treat your bachelor's or your master's as like a entry point, like an entry ticket, and use that to come here and then try to find your own way. Like it's almost like a passive thing, like you have your bachelor's and master's, yes, but then if you really want to have your own business here, you have to find the right, groups and the right minds to like be in and get something from there. That's very interesting. You spoke about coming here for your master's, and this is a very big topic for many people as well. Did you use an, study abroad, consultancy to come here, or did you just do did you manage to do everything by yourself?
I did manage to do everything myself. Actually, my program was quite different. It was not in a traditional way of applying to university and they come back to you. Our program was like 1 year in India and 1 year in Germany. So I got into a university that offers a program in India without any hassle. And then visa processing was very generic in the sense like you have everything done by your college. And then there was a easy move for me actually.
And can you share the name of the university?
Yes, FOM University it is called. FOM University of Applied Sciences. It has some 47 study centers in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they also have branch in India, or
Yeah, in India, there are some universities which deal with this. For example, when I was studying, Don Bosco was one of them dealing with from Bangalore. I think now they have collaborations with Indira College and Keystone was other thing from Delhi.
okay.
So yeah, these were some parties or colleges where you have 1 year master's program there and 1 year master's program abroad.
And are these paid ones, or are these free? Are they paid?
Yeah, they are paid ones. Yeah,
Paid. But like nevertheless, somebody cannot economically want to not pay for the master. They can still come here for them, masters, and then find their own groups and then.
definitely that's possible.
You were also in Netherlands. I wanted to like touch upon that as well because I've seen a lot of tech startups also basing themselves in Netherlands because they have a special visa there, which is I think easier to get. Did you have a chance to also like did this thought also cross your mind to maybe base yourself there instead of Germany?
I mean, I had no thoughts working in Netherlands, but I heard a lot of, let's say, some additional benefit you get founding startups in Netherlands, especially for Indians, because language is the first thing. So if you want to start something in Germany, like German would literally help you or give it that edge. But in Netherlands, English can help you a lot. That's one thing. And in Netherlands, I worked with one of the NGOs actually, where I was training women in AI and ML sort of stuff. And there, what I observed is like the amount of Dutch required in companies is much lesser compared to what German is required in German companies. So there is a lot of acceptance for English language compared to Germany.
Mm, Yeah, my biggest mistake as a founder was
Mhm.
hiring the wrong lawyers, or in fact, using the lawyers for the wrong things. That's my biggest lesson from my last startup because lawyers are expensive in Germany, and that sort of dried up a lot of liquidity that I had. Do you have such moments of reflection or some, lessons that you have learned so far in your journey so far?
I mean, I think like I haven't directly encountered any such of issues because my other co-founder takes care of all this stuff, and he is German and he knows how things work and when to approach a lawyer and when not to, kind of. So
That's the biggest hack then, get a German co-founder. But are there any other things that you have now that you like look back on, you think, oh, I should have done that, differently?
it's not, but let's say um, in terms of founding company, that's fine, like you get things done with the help of German co-founders easily. But let's say what I did differently was, let's say, I mean, this is generally a recommendation which a lot of mentors give it, even like do not hold your shares directly from your personal side where liability completely falls on you. Rather have a holding company to do things. But when I started having my own holding company of Uge, I was unaware of certain processes of filing taxes as a corporate, not as a person. So I think that's where I was unaware of certain processes. But I think if you research enough, I think you can also get resolved with these things. Uge is a good way to find. Initially, you also burn money because being an entrepreneur in Germany and you are holding a company, generally like employees, they generally feel proud that okay, we work for 11 months in Germany and get a 12-month salary. But if you are a founder and employee of your company, you literally make 10 months of your salary because you spend the rest on paying your tax consultant or getting legal things done. So be aware of this fact is something which I would like to say.
Definitely. Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. What's the vision that you have for, Audit One? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
So make Audit One as big as possible in terms of revenues being generated. More work more on productizing it. Currently, there are a lot of service-based stuff going on. as a cash cow. So make more things productized and let the market play the game kind of, and have a big merger or acquisition with it, and then take an exit is something which we are looking for in terms of Audit One. Yeah.
Got it, got it. And what's the one advice you would give any other, foreigner, especially Indian coming here, which will help them thrive in Europe, not to survive in Europe? And the reason I say this is because that's my motto of my channel, that I'm trying to build stuff, trying to share, information which helps them thrive over here. Because a lot of Indians or a lot of foreigners who come here, they are just trying to like survive, like that's their dream. But of course, being your own founder like you are, this is the one of the ways that you can thrive over here, like really enjoy life over here. So what's the one advice you would give somebody to help them thrive in Europe, not just survive in Europe?
Maybe like one thing what I can say from my side is like this would be contrary to what I exactly do. Actually, what I miss here is like my social life a bit. I felt like if I had learned German well and able to let's say gather more network in German and with German guys, my life could have been like, let's say, much more colorful in terms of social life, uh, and more networks, or let's say, even like I could have driven like a lot of clients to my company because most of the sales stuff is done by my other co-founders. Um, that's something I miss out. But let's say if somebody wants to literally thrive as a founder and get that social life of what you miss in India, I think learn German, try to get into the culture a bit more, and hang out with uh, German guys in the meetups and etc. They are very kind of let's say initially you might have that not belongingness thing, but let's say once you get that belongingness sort of thing from their side, I think nobody can match their love and affection. Yeah.
Got it, got it. I think it was super interesting. It's very rare that I have somebody who is doing something like you are, you know. And I think Audit One is in a very interesting space. I think Web3 and AI is here to stay and only grow. And you're doing it from a company which loves compliance and loves to, audit things. Any other last thoughts or anything else you want to share?
Mm, yeah, I mean, maybe in general, what I usually say to my students, or let's say the people whom I trained, or anyone who's asked me this question of whether I should go for a job or an entrepreneur journey, what I just recommend is like if you literally have a capacity to take a risk in your early age, like during your bachelor's or during your master's, whenever you're in academic programs itself, take that risk. Because if you immediately start with the job, I feel like okay, you start with fresher packages, you make less money, that's fine. Take that amount for granted. Like let's say you might make some 6 lakhs or 10 lakhs salary, that doesn't matter. Leave about 3 years, try for 2 to 3 years as an entrepreneur, like how you can excel at things. If your business gets successful, you can make a fortune that you can't literally make it in next 100 years when you work for MNC even. But even if things go wrong, the amount of knowledge you gain and also the amount of exposure you get in various verticals will help you to land a better job also.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you need to like definitely make your mistakes faster. And I think when I look back at my time at my job, it was a great time. I met so many interesting people, and I have such a good profile because of it. But when I actually evaluate what I did, I can't really find concrete things of what was I doing, because when you have a job, it's mostly about, I don't know, like maintaining stuff or doing something which is not maybe personally meaningful to you. And that's why you don't feel like you're making meaningful progress in your life. And I think entrepreneurship is one of those things where even if you're doing it for 1 year, you will do so much, or just like out of sheer, energy and passion, that you will really feel you're making some meaningful progress. And I think that's one of the most fulfilling feelings that there are. Thank you so much. Raja, I think you're an inspiration for the entire Indian diaspora, and anybody else who is coming to Europe to, start something of their own. Appreciate that you took out 1 hour from your busy schedule today, and hopefully this video would inspire somebody to come here and start something of their own as well.
Thanks for having me, Amra.
I'll stop the recording.